This event. We'd love for you to obviously make some great connections today and see what we can do to keep this momentum that Galway has going. I'm Dave Cunningham, John Breslin and I are the founders of this, and we're just delighted to have you here today. We're going to, because we're under a little bit of time pressure, just a quick thank you to all our sponsors and thank you to all of you for attending and coming, and we'll really get started. Enjoy the day. John, do you want to go for another 140-character speech?
Good morning, everyone. So you're welcome to the second installment of Innovating West. Dave often talks about how we came up with the idea for this, and he said last night, actually, if we do this, and I said when we do this. But talking is one thing and doing is another, and really this has all been about Dave and Ciara, who've made everything happen here today. So maybe just before we start, just a quick thank you to Dave Cunningham and Ciara Dean. So Dave and Ciara have just come back from London, where they were running the Lean Startup Summit for the first few days this week. And I'm not sure if you saw any photographs from the Lean Startup Summit, but Dave was standing up on a table at one stage, getting the room energized. And unfortunately, due to health and safety policies in the university, Dave is not allowed to stand up on any tables today. So if you do see him and I'm not here, please tell him to get down. Okay? So without any further ado, because as Dave mentioned, we're starting a little bit late, I want to just introduce our first panel, and I will start just by introducing Mary Rogers, who is the Innovation and Community Manager from the Portishead, and Mary in turn will introduce our panel members. So thanks, Mary, take it away.
Hi, good morning, everybody. Our first panel this morning is about Lean in Galway, and again, its effect nationally and globally, and we're lucky we're joined by an expert panel from across the fold. I'm going to let them introduce themselves because they do that best, and then we'll go straight into some questions. If you want to tweet, the hashtag is Innovating West, and if you have any questions, feel free to share them on slido.com.
Hi, Breda Fox, Head of Enterprise with Galway Local Enterprise Office. A strong supporter of lean approach to analysing business, either from a startup point of view or in terms of evaluating any new product development or any new innovation you might have that will be customer facing for your business.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Enda Collar, and I'm currently working in Boston Scientific as production unit manager for the drug-eluting stent business. In that we manufacture about 1.5 million units a year. We have about half the American market, and we change and improve lives by providing a service of products to help with non-invasive medical technology. My background really is a lean practitioner. I'm an alumni member of what I would call UCG, now NUIG, so it's my first time really back here on campus in about 25 years. I graduated in 1992 when things were very, very lean and mean at the time, with very little job opportunities in the area. I'm a huge advocate of Connacht and Galway, and I think it's fantastic that we're really here today to talk about what we can do to help each other bridge the know-how and talent in our location, innovate together and create more and more enterprise west of the Shannon. I always reflect on the old adage Cromwell said, to hell or to Connacht, where we know we don't have a lot of natural resources. Morris mentioned it last night, we haven't enough water to drown a person, soil to bury a person, or trees to hang a person. But we've got great people, and lean for me and what we do now is the releasing and the energizing of people, engaging people to use their know-how to make tomorrow better than today by the consistent elimination of waste. So it's a pleasure to be here and looking forward to talking to you more.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Declan Droney. 16 years ago I started Kinvara Smoked Salmon, and so I've been in business for that long. When we started, we had great success, but what's far more interesting in anything that I do is that I made huge mistakes. So, and I made those mistakes through not applying lean techniques to what we were doing in the business. So about 5 or 6 years ago, along with Breda, we started doing lean startup training in Galway, and I'm a huge fan of it, and so that's what we're kind of talking about, isn't it?
Perfect, thanks guys. And we will start with you, Declan, actually. So you train on the lean methodology for startups in Galway. And like, what happens there, and what do they learn, and how is it applied?
Okay, so I suppose when I started looking at it, one thing that always shocked me about startup business is the failure rate. So the statistic in Ireland is that 50% of startups are gone by year 1 and 80% are gone by year 3. The Harvard Business Review did a report 3 years ago and said that 75% of startups fail. So to me, that's just it's a crazy statistic, and it's one that stops an awful lot of people starting their business if that's their dream to do it. So what we do is, well, I think one of the reasons for that is there's a natural focus for an entrepreneur to just focus on the product and always think about the product rather than thinking about the whole environment around it. So in the Lean Startup course that we give in the local enterprise office with Breathe, what we do is get people to stop focusing on the product and get out of the building and speak to real life customers and find out what's the problem that they're solving for somebody, or what's the need that they're creating. And as Enda says, it's about eliminating waste. And for a startup, with the amount of chaos that's going on, there is no room for waste. There's no room for waste of resources or waste of cash. So it's all about getting people to get out of the building, speak to real life customers, finding out what the problem that they're solving, and that's really where the truth is, and that's where the learning is. We're in day 2 of the current course, and this week we asked them to just do that first customer development interview to find out what was the journey like for a customer when they buy the product that they're about to offer. And in their first customer development interview, every one of them learned something, which I thought was amazing. That you know, they came with a very clear, I know where I'm going, this is the product, this is the market we're going to push it into. But it was when they actually engaged with customers, that's where they found, you know, some real learnings. So I'm a huge fan of it from that point of view. And I think that's what we all have to keep doing. Just keep on engaging with customers, keep on eliminating those wasteful practices.
Thank you. So Enda, you're from Boston Scientific, and I have to say, off the top of my head, I wouldn't associate Lean and Boston. So it's kind of understanding how Lean applies in that type of corporate environment.
Yeah, and you know, it's certainly an evolutionary journey. I spent 12 years with Dell Computers in Limerick as well, so I'm very familiar with Lean supply chain and what Lean used to be. And Lean was synonymous with being mean, slash and burn, reducing headcount, cutting cost, etc. But the evolution of it, primarily driven by the Toyota production system model, was to recognize that everything is a process. Declan talked about processes here, and you have to get into the mindset that everything you do actually is a process. And in that process, 70% of all of it is wasteful activity. And then it's a matter of identifying that wasteful activity and either removing it or eliminating it. Customer's king, which means you have to listen to your customers. The voice of the customer determines what you really should be doing. But often people get an emotional connection with a product or a solution, a sexy solution for a problem that we actually don't have. The emotional connection is so great, people can't let go of it and listen to what they need to hear, but they always want to listen to what they want to hear. So part of the Lean journey for any company I've worked in is recognizing that about the customer, and then delivering processes, manufacturing, and predominantly I'm talking about to deliver on those customer expectations, and continuously improving and removing waste, using Lean tools like define, measure, analyze, improve, control, report, as you try and eliminate waste, process mapping to identify those wasteful opportunities. And it's all about the value proposition for the customer. So having come back to Galway and married here a Galway girl and have 2 children living in the area again, it was my goal to come back after 20 years away, really, where there, you know, things were tough when I left UCG in 1992. And part of that really is give something back to make sure that the 3,000 people today employed in Boston Scientific, which you can multiply that by 7 in terms of, you know, what's put back into the local catchment area, the wage bill there is about 10 to 12 million a week. So, and a lot of people don't even know what happens up there. There's 6 different factories that, you know, make product that improve and save lives. And, you know, it's all about sustaining that and having gainful employment for the next 50, maybe 60 years, so our children, our children's children can have that gainful employment. The Lean paradigm then really becomes, you know, eliminating waste. And we're on a cultural journey ourselves where Lean was meaning about eliminating waste. But we're recognizing now the innovative piece of it, which is what we're all here today at, is leveraging the know-how of people, that people know how to improve their own work. And lean changing to continuous improvement, to really leveraging, respecting people for what they do, for acknowledging that the work is improving the work. So going to work on a daily basis is not about doing your job, but your job is improving your job for the future and thereby growing the business. So we're using euphemisms like the work is improving the work. And part of that is respecting people and affording them the time to go and make their processes and their workspaces better for the future. But that means slowing down to go faster. And it's a conundrum in trying to make that happen because you're investing time now for a benefit in the future. Part of that realization of the journey is it's a cultural one as well. So we've acknowledged that and say we have possibly not been fair on people. We haven't determined what the culture it is we want to work with each other and what it should be. We're on an evolution from old-style command and control to a spirit of winning together, where everyone is inclusive with a common purpose and everyone understands their link to the value proposition. So how do we do that? An organization of 2,500 people, it started with getting everybody into a room in groups of 40 and running 76 sessions over a 3-month period for them to identify the obstacles that were preventing them flourishing in the work environment. From that, we went off-site. 90 people were elected from that to represent people at a consensus day, where we spent 2 days in the Clayton Hotel. It was supposed to be a 1-day event. It actually took 2, nearly 2 full 48 hours. And we only left when we had all the obstacles grouped into 25 key themes that culminated into 12 different projects we were all going to collectively do, made up from the people on the site. And part of that, and the most evolutionary piece of it, was creating behavioral standards. So culture is defined by principles which then lead to values, but you cannot see values, it's all about behaviors. So we took a group of 35 who, on behalf of the rest of the company, created the behaviors we all wanted to work with each other together. Everybody subsequently on site then was trained for 2 hours with facilitators who were trained on how to facilitate those behavioral standards. And everybody acknowledged to start behaving differently in a more respectful, proactive way with each other. It really kicked us off to a situation here where, we've 7 behavioral standards. The first one is we show respect by taking the time to listen, understand, and appreciate each other. Number 2, we assume positive intent and value in each other. 3, we value and are open to different opinions, and we have the courage to respectfully challenge. We understand, prioritize, commit, and then we deliver instead of taking on commitments that weren't ours in the first place. Winning spirit, see it, own it, do it. If something is wrong, do something about it yourself. It's incumbent on everyone in the organization. And the last one then is we have the courage to challenge our own and others' negative or restrictive assumptions, talking behind anyone's back, deliberate underperformance, taking credit for others' work, functional or self-centered thinking, and any breach of our standards. That platform then has enabled people to have conversations around, look, I am concerned if, or I am bothered by, and put it in context of the behavioral standards, where we're trying to change the culture from where it was to a united, purposeful culture, all going the same direction, rowing the same boat, where people are inner focused, and the watchers become more and more inner focused as they see a better behavior style. And then the limit testing behavior changes, or people come to the realization that maybe they're not a fit for the culture that everybody wants to be progressive. So that's where lean has gone to. It's gone from, lean, mean, process mapping, ruthlessly technical, following processes, to valuing people, respecting people, leaders leading with humility. You never hear anybody being accused of listening too much. And I'm doing an awful lot of talking here, but you never hear it, and the question is why. But it's training people to listen. When we listen, there's a chance we learn something new. When we talk, we're only reaffirming what we already know. So we're on that journey with 2,500 people. We're a year into it at this stage. It's early days, but it's an evolution of lean or continuous improvement from the standard model I would have been familiar and practitioner of for a number of years.
Thanks. Breda, from Declan's perspective on the stats there of companies failing and succeeding, is the lean platform effective for your clients?
I suppose our metrics in terms of lean would be that we probably double the standard start your own business type of success rate. Typically training in terms of startups would fall into the silos, the technical silos like finance issues, marketing issues, tax issues, the impact on yourself as an entrepreneur. But the beauty about lean and the whole measurement piece that Enda was talking about there is you start with the customer and the problem. And the majority of the training that we would roll out in terms of the lean launch, and I even don't like calling it a lean launch, it's a holistic view, but all of it is based on actually solving a problem or delivering a customer need. And the whole thing about getting out and talking to people is a similar analogy to what Enda would have done with his teams, because those are the people that are actually doing the work. They're the people that are best placed to say, okay, that makes sense or that doesn't make sense. So when you flip that and you talk about a business, looking at a new market, you're talking to the customers, so it becomes more real. And like some of our feedback from the lean launch people, not all of them will go ahead and start their business. And you know what, that's good, because maybe there wasn't a business in their business,
Yeah, and I think from the point of view of the entrepreneurs themselves, often as entrepreneurs, I think we can be dangerously optimistic and dangerously ambitious and very, very single-minded. And everybody is so sure that their product is the best thing that has ever happened. And you actually find people that have this great solution and they'll search for the problem that they're going to ram this solution into, because that's where their business is. So it's changing that mindset and getting people to have that acceptance that actually they may not know what the customer wants. And there's really, from the point of view of the success rate of it and increasing the stats on successful business startups, it's really down to kind of two decisions. You can go to either way. You can invest in hope, invest in the business and hope there's a market there for it, or use the lean method of just accepting that all you have is a product but you don't actually know what's in the head, what's the value proposition from the point of view of your customer. And then having a very simple process of that customer engagement, and that's really where the truth is. That's where you kind of go from the 75% failure rate to the 25% success rate, excuse me, is by spending as much time as you can in the head of your customer. And there's a whole array of different customers in the process, and a whole array of different stakeholders with a whole array of different needs. But it's the time you spend in that is really that process that's going to be the difference between success and failure, or building a business where you're hoping there's a business in it, or doing the lean method, which is the one I think is the way to go. Yeah.
And do you think the startups are listening? Because it's quite hard, isn't it? Initially, you have an idea and ideals, and you want to drive it forward. So are they willing to pivot? Are they willing to walk away?
Well, we're kind of a bit mean with them in the lean launch in Galway. There's one of the parameters is that you have to speak to 50 real life customers before you complete the course. Okay, so between every one of the modules, you have to be out of the building. I mean, the stuff we do on the modules is grand and it's entertaining. We have great crack, but it's really the work that's done outside it. So everybody is forced to speak to 50 real life customers about their product and what's the problem that they're solving, and what's the need that their product is the solution for. So yeah, there's some are very clear. My product is the best ever and it's going to change the world and I don't need to talk to anybody about it, and that's fine. Go with that. That's the kind of invest in hope strategy, which I don't think we should do. But so yeah, but like entrepreneurs are very, very single-minded. They're very, very clear. So getting people to change and pivot, it does happen. And I think one of the best responses we got to the course was a guy that went through it, and he sent us an email afterwards and said, "Thanks a million for the course, really enjoyed it, but I've decided not to go ahead with the business. You've probably saved me about 30,000. Now that was a phenomenal response. That was a really good result, that somebody has gone through the right lean process and decided, okay, there isn't a business here. So you break that emotional attachment to your idea. And I think, that was fantastic. That was kind of what we want to do.
It's nearly the process.
Yeah, and in high volume manufacturing as well, on the other end of it, when you have a successful startup, it's the exact same principles. Probably the most useful thing you can do is a simple technique of 5 whys. ask why 5 times. And if people, even emotionally connected with their own product or process, ask that why to try and see reality. Reality is very difficult to see when you're emotionally ingrained in it, because reality is a very personal thing. But that 5 why, and it's why kids, age 3, 4, 5 are always asking why. We're chatting here wrong, it's because they're only on the planet for about 4 years. There's an awful lot that they don't know. But it's a great way to find out what's going on and really to sound check where you're going. And if you don't know where you're going, any road takes you there. So it's really affirming your strategy all the time. And even the simple techniques, as taught by Declan and any lean practitioner in any journey of the product lifecycle, very, very effective. They're very, very simple, but they're very, very difficult at times. It's simple, but it's not easy and requires rigor and discipline to constantly follow a process. And if you don't follow that process, you could end up anywhere. And there's a huge link there between lean in high volume manufacturing and lean in startups. But they're all founded on the exact same principles all the time.
Brita, do you find that lean is applicable to one sector, because you deal with cross sectors, or can every different business use the lean process?
I think it should be used across every sector. I think the principles apply because it comes down again to adding value for your customer. I mean, this program here today is called Innovating West, and innovation is probably a very overused word in my area in terms of enterprise supports and that. Innovation to me, I suppose, means adding value. What you're doing has to add value for a customer. So to me, that has to apply to every sector. If you're making a food product, somebody has to think it's tasty and buy it. If you're providing a service, be it a professional service or a personal service for somebody, you have to be doing something slightly different that allows people, or that make people want your product or service.
Yeah, go on then.
So just one of the points that Enda made about if you don't know where you're going, any road will take you there. And that's something that we see a lot, is that some of the people that come in with business ideas, they don't have a very clear vision about where it is they want to take the business. And I think that's a critical part of the journey as well, to have that kind of clarity about where you want the business to be. In something like a food product, the barriers to entry are quite low, and it is quite easy to start that business, but it's incredibly hard to scale it. So you can start a food company pretty much in your kitchen, do the local farmers markets, do the local shops and restaurants, but then it's when you try to scale beyond that. And I think that's one of the things that we ask food entrepreneurs to think about is, yeah, you're going to get those early stage customers, those local customers, but that's not a sustainable business. And really that's what we're about. It's about building a sustainable business. That's what everyone should be trying to do. So it's using the lean principles to see how scalable the business is. So I think it does cross every sector. I think it can be used in every sector, yeah.
And just on the sustainability piece, when you're in that lovely position of having a very viable product that your customer wants and values and gives you good feedback with, enhancing the features all the time as you continuously improve, then the lean tools help you scale in that regard. Some key components of that would be strategy deployment, uniting everybody on the common cause of where you're going. Back to the adage, if you don't know where you're going, any road gets you there. But being very purposeful and really having everybody linked to a mastery of purpose in pursuit of that common goal. Everyone understanding by cascading that strategy down to everybody's link in the organization, what they do to realize that dream. And it's analogous with walking into a construction site and asking somebody, what are you doing? And they'll tell you, I'm laying bricks. And then you could turn to somebody else and say, what are you at? And they'll say, well, I'm building a cathedral. So it's that commonality of higher purpose linked with strategy, and that deployed right down to, hopefully in the organizations I'm involved in, if you stop the cleaner and ask them what they do, they say, well, I'm helping support people who are saving and improving lives because they're making stents. And that is the nirvana we're trying to get to, and it's a way of bringing people with you on that journey and realizing their full potential.
That's interesting. So this winning together strategy, or this, you kind of pivoted, I guess Boston haven't they? So it's management down, everyone's engaged in the lean methodology now, would you say?
Yeah, well, it has to be everybody getting behind it, because other than that, you're just 2,500 people maybe rowing the boat in different directions. And you know, it is uniting against that common purpose, and it is about, you know, it is not about going to work and making things or creating an income, but it's also about the higher purpose of the incumbent nature of the corporate, social, personal, and, you know, humanitarian responsibility we have to keep everything going. And I'm going to say west of the Shannon again, not offending anyone from East Athlone, but it is about that, where, you know, we're not stacked up, as I mentioned earlier on, with massive natural resources in this area. You know, it's beautiful, it's scenic, tourism is a massive opportunity for us, it's a great place to live, the weather could be better, but people are the greatest asset we have, and leveraging that know-how, and we say it, you know, at times in our own business, if we really knew what we knew, we'd be fantastic, and that means leveraging everybody with the talent that they have. And, you know, a key component of that is Einstein said at one stage, if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it'll go around through its whole life thinking it's stupid. And, you know, really it is a matter of tailoring people's characteristics and abilities and competencies, which can be taught and trained, companies can anyway, in the right direction, so that they're not going to work anymore, but they're actually going to do what they enjoy, analogous with a professional sports person. Very nirvana in its optimistic approach, but it really is about connection to a higher purpose for a greater good. It helps that we make medical devices. In Dell we made computers that help people's life. It's nicer when you're advancing science for life by giving people something that can, you know, prolong their relatives, their families' lives, etc. So that's a bit more meaningful.
Very good. And then just last question to you, Breda. You see lots of companies coming through your doors across sectors. I think that's increased a lot recently. I see a lot of engagement with the LEOs, companies are going in for different training. And so have you noticed that increase? You had some great stats the other day at Fueling Ambition, I remember.
We do very well in Galway, I think, because of the likes of the Boston Scientifics, etc. There's a huge technical competence, I think, in the area, which breeds the creativity that's required for startups, to be honest. And we're very lucky to be, you know, have the colleges, GMIT, NUIG, all of that, you know, feeding and supporting the startup community. Our stats would be, I suppose, you know, we would have seen almost 1,000 people on one-off business advisory sessions last year, which has gone up. So we would, I suppose our stats from last week would have been about female entrepreneurship, and we're doing quite well there as well. Like the last Food Academy program we had, 8 of the 10 people who pitched were female-led food startups, which, you know, is a good stat. And we have good record in terms of transferring to our sister agency, Enterprise Ireland. I see Margaret here from Enterprise Ireland. And indeed, Enterprise Ireland also run a lean startup module as well, the New Frontiers. I see Tony and George here as well, which is based on the similar principles, but it's funded slightly differently.
I think what's great is that you see that the collaboration across all the platforms in Galway, isn't it, between the corporates and the LEOs and EI and IDA and New Frontiers, like everything's coming together. So it's a real, it can only get better. The whole community spirit is there. And so we can learn loads from the lean. And
yeah, you just mentioned there, you know, we're very lucky. And certainly as a proud Connacht man, I think we're extremely lucky here. But also you make your own luck, and it's people like yourselves and people in the room here that have made the luck in an area where there isn't a lot of natural resources. And luck often is defined when opportunity meets practice. And really this is the opportunity here now to keep making ourselves luckier and keep taking those shots and keep supporting each other and put personal victories behind us and start doing it for the greater good. And that's what's fantastic about the innovation opportunity here, for people to go and connect, and who knows what might spark from it.
Listen, thanks so much everybody for your time this morning. We really appreciate it. Breda Fox, Enda Colleran, Declan Droney. Thank you.